we'll get started. First of all, like I said, thank you so much, Peter, Alessandro, and Rajasi for taking out time this evening. For everyone else joining in, welcome, and thank you as well for taking out time this evening. So welcome to this webinar. We'll be covering this really interesting topic that we've been researching upon and working with various clients upon, called decoding personalization. I think there are some questions coming in already. People have raised hands. Probably we'll just check those out as well. And the way this webinar is structured, we have a panel for us to walk through some examples, some real life case studies of where we've implemented these projects. We will also be talking about some really important concepts when it comes to strategy, the overall strategy of how do you execute a personalization strategy at scale, how do you deliver tailored experiences, and also I will be walking through some examples of as a consumer, what are some of the things that you may have seen as a consumer, companies deliver some of these experiences to you, and how do you then make sense of all of that is something that I will be helping you deliver. So my name is Ankit. I would be the host for this evening, and welcome Peter, Alessandro, and Rajasi. We'll get started with the webinar then. And during the webinar, feel free for you guys, there's a chat window or a Q&A section. So I'll be walking through the agenda now, but there are multiple windows multiple options for you guys to engage with us during the webinar. So there is a chat section where you can put in your questions. You can also then share other examples during a proper formal Q&A session that we would be having at the end of this webinar. So the way this is structured is in 3 sections. The first 15 minutes, we'll be covering an introduction to personalization, talking about the topic, about the concepts. In the second section, we'll be looking at more specific examples for personalization in action, some examples from our clients. And then the third section, in the last final 15 minutes, we'll be looking at the Q&A. So overall, in the 45 minutes, we'll be covering the first 2 sections and then 15 minutes for Q&A, where each of you can ask direct questions. All right, then. I'll give the panel a quick introduction. So my name is Ankit. I'm a lead strategist, primarily focused on digital transformation and projects within eClerx focused on digital transformation and adoption. Of all the panelists on the panel today, they have a huge experience in a wide variety of roles in data science, in analytics, and deep domain understanding in the domains that they represent today. So we have Rajasi, who'll be talking from the perspective of retail and e-commerce. We have Alessandro, who'll be talking us through some examples from fashion and luxury, especially. And then Peter as well, who's a principal consultant, and he'll be talking a little bit more from the media and entertainment perspective. So welcome, everyone. I will quickly move to the key section. So introduction to personalization. So just 1 second. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. So in terms of personalization, yes. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's fine.
Fine. Okay. So so personalization as a concept, it has existed in offline experiences that you may have had with various brands. And one example that comes to my mind is Share a Coke. If you guys remember, in early 2010s, there was a campaign around Coke where the cans of the campaign would have names of people written on those campaigns. And that was such a huge campaign where everybody wanted to get the Coke with their particular name on it. And that's sort of offline experiences in a personalized environment have been enabled for many, many years. But over the years, what we've seen is with the advent of digital technology, the personalizations has taken a more digital shape. And those personalized experiences and interactions are happening online. So in early 2010s, again, if you would remember, just getting an email with your exact name, that itself was a big deal at the time. And now we've gotten or reached, the personalization has reached to a level where people are even able to curate personalized experiences and able to then actually real time help make these decisions. I'll move to the next slide then. Right. So what is personalization? In very, very simple terms, personalization is being able to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time through the right channel, right? Now, again, marketing has always existed and this has been done in the past, but now with digital experiences, this becomes even more easier and important to execute at scale. So I'll try to start with a question for the panel here. Peter, Alessandro, and Rajasi, just want to quickly understand from your perspective in your industry. We all understand the concept of personalization, but why does it matter? And what are some of the benefits you've seen in your specific industry when it comes to personalization? So maybe we'll start with Rajasi, then Peter, and then Alessandro, each, if you can go in that order.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Ankit, for setting up the context about what personalization means. And obviously, the benefits that we have been able to derive out of personalization are humongous. So if I were to say that, in retail, specifically e-commerce business, it's more so ever to be able to acquire the right kind of customer and improve on the acquisition. Or even if once I acquire the customer, it is important to convert that customer and drive sales. I think from a retail standpoint, when there is a lot of competition and growing competition day by day, for me, acquisition, conversion, sales are the levers which I would want to drive through personalization.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. And Peter?
Well, I would say certainly in entertainment and a bit in media, there's this great competition for the attention of the viewer, and producing enticing and engaging experience, magnify that personalization for the viewer. With entertainment, you can bring people in with blockbusters and you can bring them in with championships, but really, for the business to succeed, you want them to stay after the big event. And a lot of these businesses are subscription based in entertainment. In media, they're more paywall based. Again, it's the big events that bring people in, and then for the business, it's retaining people and making them stay, and personalization and reducing the churn of customers and improving their stickiness is the key drivers here.
Excellent. And Alessandro, have you seen some examples, or what benefits have you seen in fashion and luxury?
Absolutely. I think luxury is a great example because they started doing personalization quite a long time ago, personalizing for what we would call the ultra rich. How things have transformed nowadays is where personalization moved from purely an offline effort to an actual online effort. We see lots of customer experience excellence trying to be put into the online channels. We see personalization also different levels, where personalization means customization, for example, tailoring, or engagement on specific platforms, apps, whether it's a membership program, a loyalty program, brand identity program, right? Or also in terms of transparency. We also think nowadays the importance of things like sustainability in fashion, which is now on every chief officer agenda. What we see also that in fashion, examples like Zegna, for example, they would tailor as the product is made, it's tailor-made on you during the phases of the production. You get sent an email. So we see how from offline, a picture in a studio, in a tailoring studio, becomes an email, and that becomes communication with customer. And that is also personalization.
Excellent, excellent. So it does seem like across industries and across various types of interactions that people are having, personalized interactions can have massively positive outcomes for the businesses. It can increase engagement, and like Peter, you mentioned, renewals or subscriptions, improving loyalty. And again, Alessandro, like you said, that for the super rich or the ultra luxury segments, it's been happening for a while, and more so combining online and offline experiences. So that's it. That's excellent. But I guess that begs a question that if there are so many benefits, then why has it traditionally been hard to scale personalization initiatives? And if it's okay, Rajasi, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, sure, Ankit. So if I were to just give you a little bit of a context of why personalization probably was not on one of the agenda items maybe a decade ago. So
Yeah.
everybody wanted to do personalization, but people did not have the means and the goals to be able to achieve that as well. So for example, they wanted to do personalization, but who to target, with what to target, and to be able to make that decision, there is a lot of dependency on what we know about our customer or consumer. So
Right.
the data residing in all silos, with the technology not being made available for these kind of initiatives, I think that was the biggest barrier from a data and technology standpoint. But once the data and technology areas have been worked upon, I think then the next piece was that what is the ROI on the overall personalization, and should it even be on my strategic priority list, or is it there on my the goals to improve the business in the next 5 years? So then
Right.
it took a little bit of time for all the industry experts to come together and then actually deliver and make a case for the board of directors, for example, saying that yes, you would have to invest, if not today, tomorrow, because the consumer is going to be asking or demanding, because the consumer would want to feel special, and
Right.
the feeling that, okay, this is something that I would want you to know about me, and having that personalized message coming to me makes you feel good. So consumer, when wants to be in the spotlight, even wants the brand to hear to his needs and wants. And
Right.
especially with the growing growing competition in all the aspects, be it in the retail sector. Peter, I'm sure you would be facing a similar challenge in the media industry, and also from Alessandro from the luxury brands as well. So with the growing technology advancements that we are making, with the type of consumer expectations that are growing, I would say that yeah, companies would have to invest in that. And in the last 5 years or so, companies have been able to get there as well. So it's not that the case the people are still conserved in terms of, okay, do I need to really make that spend on personalization? No, people have opened up. They want to do personalization because they want to stay ahead of the game, because at the end of the day, customer delight is something that we all would want to focus on. And
Right.
definitely we've seen that 50% of the problems are already solved, because data technology, all the advancements we have been able to do, foundations are in place. But now going forward, what type of personalization needs to be done, whom should you target, with what should you target, that becomes the problem of focus area.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rajsi. So if I'm going to try to summarize what you mentioned, so it seems like earlier the technology and the data gathering techniques were not sophisticated enough. I think once we got to that level where the technology enabled us that sort of data gathering, we were then able to, that has actually enabled some companies to do it. Like you mentioned, like 50% of the problems or some set of problems within personalization have been solved. And maybe that is what is making everybody else also realize that it should be at the top of their agenda as well, because the customers really, really want it.
Sure.
And that's true. As a customer, I would definitely want to have a one-on-one relationship with my brand and want them to understand my needs and serve them. And thank you. And I think that really helps us summarize this entire section so far in terms of personalization. Like we mentioned, right message, right person, right time, through the right channel. That's from a company's perspective, and from a consumer perspective, that enables me to have a direct relationship, want me to invest myself in that specific brand, and also just feel delighted at the end of the day. So thank you so much for that, Rajsi. I'll quickly move to the next section where we'll start talking a little bit more detail about specific examples of personalization, especially personalization in action, where I would love to walk you through this section with some examples of the brands that most of us are aware about and would have also interacted with these brands. And I would pose these questions to you guys, and if you can share some examples from your industries. So I'll start with a very simple example. This is a personal one that I wanted to put in the discussion today. So my birthday is coming next month. So definitely I will be waiting for wishes from you folks. But what's really interesting is I've already gotten an email from Starbucks this month about a free beverage that I can avail next month, it being my birthday month, right? And then I also get other messages or keep getting emails from them that are seem like very specific to my tastes and seem like very specific to the kind of things that, let's say, a store that's near my house or regarding a reward program, right? So I keep getting these emails that are very specific to me. What I would like to understand is that what's going on behind the scenes. So what is Starbucks doing to enable this kind of an experience for me? And, which is getting me excited for my birthday even before, anyone else was. So maybe I'll start this section with Peter. Peter, if you could kindly explain, like, what do you think is happening behind the scenes, and then also give us an example from media of a similar concept.
Yeah, so this is great. I think what you're seeing here is the simplest form of personalization. It's a rules-based personalization. So they know when your birthday is, and that triggers an email to get in touch with you with whatever they sent you. It may be an offer, a voucher, or it may be some other communication about Starbucks. Let's hope it's a free coffee that you're getting, and it's very straightforward. These are triggers that fire at certain times, and they're based on very straightforward, small amounts of information, easy to set up. In a kind of one size fits all. So everybody has a birthday, everybody gets an email. It's everybody's getting the same thing in this sort of deal. And that's simple rules. They're easy to produce, and it's easy to produce the content that is triggered by these rules. We see this a lot in the entertainment industry. We see push reminders for content that's coming up. You can imagine the football season starts, or a big movie comes out. You want to inform everybody there's something going on that they would want to watch. And from the business side, subscription renewals. So if your subscription is up for renewal, you're bound to get an email saying, hey, do you want to continue with us? Perhaps with an incentive, you might get a discount or something like that. So that's all that sort of stuff is very much tied into media and entertainment.
Excellent. So very interesting. So this basically means it's rule-based and sort of, like you said, one size fits all. So it's not that I'm a special one. Everybody whose birthday is coming up or whose data is there in their system is getting this email.
Yes, I mean it can be complex. These triggers can be complex, and the consequent actions that follow can be complicated, but it tends to be very linear. So it's
understood.
You do this and you get that later on.
Understood. So this is more like an if these events happen, or if this threshold gets met, then the communication goes out.
You will get a communication.
Then a target campaign happens. Interesting.
Exactly.
Interesting. Rajasi, have you seen some examples of this in retail as well?
Yeah, I was just going to chime in and just try to elaborate a little more when Peter mentioned about the consequential, right? It's not as simple as, okay, if your birthday lies on a particular month, you get that email, but it's also, and we've typically seen where we have been supporting some of the loyalty programs. It's not only about the message that you get or email that you get saying that, hey, your points are expiring this month, come and shop. But then it becomes a little easier for the membership program also to lay a little bit of a complexity to it, saying that if you redeem your points in next 1 week, you will get a £10 voucher or a $10 voucher kind of a thing. So I think that is also a next level of complexity that we can add. But again, it's rule based. So it's not because you are getting a voucher, you will get £10 off, or because Alessandro is getting a voucher, he'll get £20 off. If you are falling in that particular bucket, you will get those particular emails. And again, these are very very first first level of personalization or
Right.
event-based personalization, as we may call, that we have been able to enable, and that is not new, and that has been slightly aged technique as well, I would say.
Been around. Okay, interesting. Thank you so much, Ratsi and Peter. So I'll just try to summarize again what I've learned from my perspective, that one, rule-based is the first sort of easiest form or the first stage of personalization, where based on certain rules, certain triggers or automations can be enabled, which can help you interact with the brand or with the customer. But the main point that Peter, I guess you mentioned, was that it's a one size fit all. So it's not, while it appears as if it's personalized, but it's essentially targeting everyone based on certain events. So it's a one size fit all in that sense. So personal greetings, reminder messages, renewals, etc. Thank you. So I hope that I was able to summarize that. I'll move on to the next question that I had, or the next brand that I was really impressed with. So this is again another interesting one. So Amazon has an upcoming sale, or their Amazon Big Billion Sale, or like the big sale day was coming up, and my wife and I both shop from Amazon. We both live in the same location, so demographic wise, most of the things match up. But for the same campaign for that particular day, I got a different email and she got a different email. And both of them, our emails were different. Like she got emails about fitness products. I got emails about tech products on sale. So that was very interesting. And some of the offers that both of us were given were also different. So what's happening here in terms of, are they classifying us in a certain manner that we are different from each other? So Alessandro, maybe if you could quickly explain a little bit from your perspective how this kind of targeting happens, and especially in luxury or other retail segments.
Absolutely, and I think this is something that is applicable actually to the whole retail. But I'll pick some examples from luxury, of course.
Yeah.
And I would say that this is what in jargon as data science we call cluster-based, action and personalization. Why cluster-based? I mean, what is a cluster? A cluster is a group of people, and what we call a persona or a profile. So a great example is actually with luxury. Back in time, you had customers walking in the stores and buying. The clever sales agent would be able to recognize immediately the type of profile that the customer walking has. Nowadays, obviously, as traffic is moved online and lots of browsing, if not purchasing, the browsing and the viewership of these products is actually moved mainly online. These online platforms and companies like luxury or other retailers, they feel the need to actually recognize, very much like the sales agent, to recognize at the door as soon as you enter the website or the e-commerce platform, to recognize this persona. A typical example in luxury would be the recognition of various segments of premium, for example, ultra premium, VIPs, and so on and so forth. But even if you think nowadays, as these segments evolve over time, we have influencers. Influencers themselves could be segmented in various ways, depending on how they impact then social media or the viewers. And that's something that does happen. See, for each of these groups, there is a set of actions. For each of these groups, there is a campaign or a set of targeted campaign can be triggered on the back of these personas. And usually in retail, at least, these persona, these campaigns get updated from time to time, usually 90 and 180 days type of time windows. And then usually campaigns are launched, and then a post-campaign analysis, again, just to create a full circle of what actually happened from an analytical perspective. Post-campaign analysis is performed to understand how well the campaign did. So that's a bit like what I see when really thinking. You made me think about these more cluster and persona-based campaigns and personalization efforts, of course.
Interesting. And thank you, Alessandro. And Peter, have you seen some examples as well yourself from the entertainment space?
Yes, and I think this is thank you, Alexandra. That's very helpful to frame this. I think this is very much apparent in media and in particular entertainment. the idea of understanding what people watch and when they watch it. And in this sphere, we do a lot of cluster-based analysis where we are, for example, looking at what people are watching on a Saturday night, or looking at, does this group watch the football during the football season, or do they just watch the matches, or is this group of people movie, or are they watching series, or are they episode chasers? All this kind of terminology from within the business, episode chasers and so on, and just by getting these groups, we can take it to the next level of personalization. We can use it for targeted campaigning, for cross-selling and upselling. So it's a very useful tool, and it comes out of this, that we've got to the big data phase of things with technology. So we are able to gather huge amounts of data and perform analysis on it.
Great. So yeah, thank you, Peter and Alessandro. So again, I'm going to try and summarize what I've gathered. So this is basically the second level or second stage of personalization, which is cluster based. And these clusters, as Alessandro, you mentioned, are assigned, or customer segments are assigned based on past or historical information that the companies have. And Peter, like you mentioned, that past information helps us make decisions regarding cross-selling product, that the products that can be cross-sold to these people, what kind of preferences that these people might have, and sort of classifying people into groups based on their personality. So excellent. Thank you so much. And I think that's a good segue also into the next question that I had, which was another great personalized experience that I've had is this email that I got at the start of the year from Spotify around, it was called Spotify Wrapped, around my year in review. And not only was Spotify able to make that communication about my entire year listening history, and it was also able to recommend new genres to me specifically based on what I had listened. And on top of that, now when I get certain notifications from Spotify, I even get notifications that are different at different times of the day. So it seems like they're probably able to understand my moods and patterns as well, that in the morning, he likes to listen to devotional music. Towards the night, maybe he likes to listen more rock and darker themes. So that seems really interesting. And I would really like to understand, Rajasi, if you can explain a little bit of what might be going on, and what is this possibly at how these decisions are being made at an individual level.
Yeah, sure. You must be feeling that you're getting spied all the time, right? And Spotify is literally tracking all your moves. But Ankit, if you look at it, right, they are also constantly collecting data. And when I mentioned that, there is a data gathering advancements that we have been able to make.
Right.
So they are constantly tapping on each and every detail that they are able to read about you, about your behavior on the app, the way you have been interacting with them, and that has been able to help them predict your behavior as well. So it is not only about the birthday message that you're getting, or the membership expiry related
Right.
emails that you're getting, but it is more so ever that, okay, if Ankit has behaved in a particular manner in the last 6 months, what is the probability that he will behave and take step B in the next month? So I think that is all the more important. And with the type of data that the companies are gathering, it's not only about the purchase history, it's about the way you're interacting with the brand as well. So I can just probably take a quick example, and from a multi-brand retailer that we have been working with, right?
Right.
So the idea was to have the personalized experiences for each and every brand, and which is fine. But the problem was a little complex for them. And then they had like a multi-brand setup where there was a huge base of a dormant customers. And the problem was of not only being able to say, okay, what should be the next best product, but then if you would want to improve the brand penetration across, how would you leverage all the historical data that is available? What is the browsing history that is available across? How have they been treated by the consumer service team as well? Is the NPS of those customers all good about the brand? So when we were trying to tackle the problem of, okay, this is a set of dormant customers, how do you improve the the brand penetration of the others? And then just to give you an example, we had like a particular sector of consumers where we understood that they were too much into activewear buying, and they were constantly buying products related to activewear and accessories as well. So then the idea was to probably improve the the brand penetration on the food segment. But then instead of just shooting out an email saying that, hey, this is a 20-pound offer that you'll be getting on purchase of any food items, then we thought that it will be easier for us to just do a targeted, curated messaging to be done to say that, okay, this is a new range of health products that we have launched, and it would be wise enough for you to get that from our brand. Because what will happen is that the consumer really feels, okay, they have really understood my needs, they have tried to think like me as to what my priorities could be, and the type of message that I'm able to receive saying that, okay, they also understand that I'm an a fitness enthusiast as well, and that's the reason why they're trying to give me the health product. So that feeling itself would add to the customer delight. And again, that doesn't happen real time.
Right.
There is some predictive modeling engine that will go behind the scenes, and then we can set it up in the automated fashion. And there is a lot of MarTech automation that can be enabled to be able to deliver those kind of experiences. And this is just an example which we have been able to successfully deliver and prove benefit from, where we were able to target one set of consumers to improve the brand penetration of the other with curated and personalized messages, I would say.
Interesting. So this is very interesting. So it seems like we start from a rule-based manner where we start creating one-size-fits-all solutions, like Peter mentioned, and then we start targeting groups of similar customers which have similar behavior. And then, like you just mentioned, Raji, now we're analyzing an individual's purchase pattern, their history, and are able to, using data science and analytics, able to predict what, not just the behavior, but sort of what kind of interaction will they likely to respond, and what will create the maximum delight for this kind of a user or customer. That's very interesting. And it does seem like multiple things, of course, within the setup of personalized targeting or personalized communication as well, there would certainly be some rules, and there would, like you mentioned, there would be some degree of cluster based. So it does seem that all these things add together as we keep going to these stages next.
Yep, it does.
Good. And because with that perspective, the next thing that I wanted to mention or ask about, and Raji, you specifically mentioned that this does not happen real time, and that's fair as well, right? So Spotify is probably analyzing my data over 3 months, 4 months, and then based on that, assigning a profile to me or as an individual, then realizing my individual tastes, and then making recommendations for curated playlists, etc. So that's very interesting. But I've also seen in the next example that I want to talk about, a lot of this sometimes also happens real time. And Netflix is a good example of this, where based on what I'm browsing or based on the shows that I'm watching, my experience itself seems to change or alter, right? The slates that appear, the order in which those slates appear. And again, if it's the same account, within the same account, different profiles can have a completely different experience. What appears as the most targeted, or sometimes even the recommended slates or recommended titles for each profile can also be different. So even though we watch a lot of common same stuff in the same household. So I just want to understand, Alessandro, this seems like everything that's you guys have mentioned so far is happening, but it seems like it's happening real time. So if you could quickly explain to us a little bit about this.
Yeah, that's right. And then earlier I just gave that keyword cluster. I think I'm going to give you another keyword here. Hyper personalization is a complex word. Is what in jargon actually this is referred to. So you said it correctly. I'm not going to repeat what you just said, but you interact with the platform and that interaction generates a humongous amount of data. So almost if you look at it from an input-output perspective, so input meaning what Netflix collects from you and from that interaction, and output is what actually present on the screen on an on-time / real-time basis. So the inputs will be your history, the metadata that comes with the history. So again, the concept of metadata is very important, data related with data. Viewership, your account information, but also a bunch of predictive models, right? Same story that we, things that we said before. What is the likelihood, for example, of you as a customer to watch a next thriller, or for example, to go for a paid-for subscriptions, because there are these paid-for subscriptions as well. Just as you can imagine, it's a completely different segment as well. So, so if these all are up inputs, so again, a complex amount of inputs, the outputs in this case would be, again, a set of recommendations, in this case, upgrades, as I said, and paid-for channels, which again, will even bump you up in terms of value, customer value, if you want to say so. And also like a great push to increase engagement, because engagement means better customer experience, particularly in a platform like Netflix, and that message can be propagated. But I think the most importantly is something that I really want to highlight that I can't stress enough. What Netflix does, and that on-time update happens thanks to an algorithm or a set of algorithms that runs behind, which learn in real time from your behavior. So as soon as you get tired and watch maybe half a trailer, not the full trailer, that information, which is half a trailer, not a full trailer, gets embedded in real time in the model, and the model provides the likelihood for your next best big thing to do. That's, I mean, in a nutshell, I'm oversimplifying it, but that's in a nutshell what happens.
No, very interesting. And this is, I mean, of course, with Netflix, I think this is something that all of us have probably experienced ourselves. Rajasi, have you seen some examples of this outside of the media and entertainment space, or like the typical platforms like Netflix?
Yes, actually, we have done that for a very large retailer already. And again, it depends on the complexity of the, the problem and the type of use case that we would want to solve. But just to, simplify as well, right? Nowadays, it is so much, that we are browsing online, and, we are buying to, trying to buy some dresses. And the moment I'm trying to look out for some, particular color or type of dresses, right? I keep on immediately getting the, the options or the recommendations of the similar colored dresses as well. The moment I actually, select a size M, for example, then the recommended product list completely changes, or, gets tailored to ensure that only the sizes that are available in those particular color schemes that I have chosen to, that start appearing. And that is all happening real time, because they absolutely do not know that, after logging in today, what is Rajasi going to be, searching for. But that is happening real time, and that is something that we have been able to enable for our customers. So as to say that it's not only about, what are the products that you would want to show, but it is also about the experience of trying to exactly, or not exactly, I would say, but 90% confidently predict as to how many steps would Rajasi take from just browsing some of the products till actually making that purchase be done with us as well. So they will absolutely show me the exact buy it now. If you buy now, you will get 5% off, 2% off, those kind of offers as well integrated, and that all the things are happening real time. So I sometimes even probably as a consumer, as an individual, I feel okay, I was just about to make the decision of, buying this particular dress. How did they understand that, I'm so close to the conversion, or, so making that decision as well. So I think that is something that, the overall artificial intelligence, I would say, and all the, AI ML models that are being developed by, companies like us are able to give that kind of a personalized experience. And that is hyper personalization, as Alessandro used the jargon as well. But again, it is more so ever to keep on tracking on a real-time basis, what are you looking out on your website or on your app, and then making those recommendations, and also, keeping the, engine in self-learning mode all the time.
Mhm.
So because it's not required for us to, go back and train the model every now and then, but then
Yeah.
remember those choices and preferences that my consumer has done, and set with us as well. So I think that is something that gives the organizations an advantage, because long gone are the days that people would only, want to sit across with the rule-based segmentation, or cluster-based segmentation and personalization based on that. But as the situation is getting complex day by day, I believe that is something that all the companies eventually would have to resort to have a hyper personalized experience.
No, that's very interesting, Ratsi. In fact, just like you mentioned, sometimes when we're on, it does seem like in the previous section, or when we were talking about personalized communication, they were still analyzing data in the past, but here that data is being analyzed real time. So it's almost as if my clickstream data is helping them decide or make decisions on the fly. Right. And it literally, sometimes I've experienced this as well. Once you've selected a certain item, or once you've selected a certain type of item, the filters itself sometimes change, right? Or the kind of experience seems curated to what I want to buy that day versus any other day. So that's very, very interesting. And again, I'll just use the same concept to just summarize what we've heard from you folks so far. So starting with rule-based, where one size fits all, it basically, once a rule or a trigger an event happens, those conditions are satisfied, we give out a personalized communication. Then there's the cluster-based, where we look at groups of customers who behave similarly and target them through targeted campaigns in a personalized manner. And then we're looking at personalizing literally for the individual by analyzing specific person's behavior, search pattern, browsing pattern, etc., and then predicting certain recommendations or behaviors for them, which are more individual specific, and in communicating then that message in an individual manner. And all of that sort of comes together if you're able to then utilize the technology in the best possible manner and create a real-time curated experience for the customers. So I've just tried to summarize that. Rajasi, Alessandro, Peter, do you think that summary makes sense? Would you like to add anything?
No, I think you're good.
All good, Ankit.
Right. And I'll just quickly then, I guess, go back to the definition. As a wrap up, we're almost at time as well. So steps for an effective personalization strategy. First, know the right person, again, the right person with the right message at the right time through the right channel. And so as a company, figure out your customer segmentation, or as a team, figure out who do you want to target, what is the personalization, or what is the degree of personalization you want in your message. Do you want it to be a simple rule-based greeting, or do you want it to be an almost personalized, individualized communication? At what point in their customer journey do you want to talk to them or reach out to them, and with what kind of messaging as well? And in the end, I guess, if you can ensure or enable a personalized experience, bringing all of these elements together, that's an ideal North Star to shoot for. So with that, that brings us to the end of section 2 as well. So we're almost on time. Now we'll open the floor for Q&A for our panel. And the first question, in fact, I would like to quickly open up the chat and check if there are questions already. And for all the participants, feel free now. I will just quickly open up the chat window as well. Just feel free to shoot questions either in the Q&A section or the chat itself. And once your questions start pouring in, I will start putting that to the panel. And as the questions are coming, probably I'll start with the one question that I am really curious about for the panel. What do you guys think is the future of personalization? We've spoken about what has gotten us to the point where we have. What new technology or what new let's say field within personalization excites you the most? And maybe I'll start with Peter for this one.
Yeah, I'm very, we're all heard a lot about generative AI, And I think what excites me out of that is a field called conversational AI. So we are utilizing the ability of generative AI to hold a conversation, to understand the intent of the user, to reply to the user in a tone that they can empathize with, and make them feel like they're having a real conversation. But yet at the same time, that's tied to specific outcomes, specific answers that have been trained into the model for the business, for the industry sector, so that the AI is not wandering off and answering every question. It's not, and there have been concerns about AIs making stuff up in order to answer questions. There are guardrails, but you are getting the empathy, the tone, the understanding that you're having a feeling of real conversation, of real immersion, and at the same time you're getting the answers you need.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And we have some questions pouring in from the audience. And again, we'll get to try to get as many as possible. So maybe I'll start with the first one that I can see. So for a digital business, what is the right time to initiate personalization for the customer so that it gives maximum return? Or in terms of a customer journey life cycle, where do you see the maximum bang for the buck for personalization initiatives?
Can I take a stab at it?
Sure.
Cool. So definitely, that's a great question, because I started talking about ROI, right? And why the company should invest in it. But just to take a little bit of a step back, ROI for every company or every organization that is trying to lead the personalization with is going to be different, because the starting point for every organization would be different. So the personalization strategy cannot be like one rule fits all, one size fits all. It will not work that way, because it has to be in terms of the maturity assessment that needs to be done, and what is it that each and every organization would want to achieve out of personalization. Because, for example, hyper personalization may be too idealistic for most of the organizations, where the business doesn't demand it to be hyper personalized consumer experience. So that is a variation because of the maturity, I would say. And to start with, it could be as simple as trying to track the improvement in the consumer experience overall, or the NPS of the consumers, or the customer lifetime value, because that's like the end goal, I would say, that we would want to maximize on and capitalize on as well. Because as I told you, that right from acquisition till the overall consumer lifetime value, there is a lot of investment that goes from the organization's point of view. So even on to lose out that one single consumer costs a lot of bucks as well. So the maximum buck, I would say, lies in the initial stage of acquisition till ensuring that the customer turns into a loyalist, and that will enable to get you the maximum consumer lifetime value, if I'm able to answer that way.
Interesting. No, that's a very interesting question as well. Thank you, Nishit. And thanks, Rajasi, for the answer. The next one is around how do we drive hyper personalization differently across different kind of customers. So whether, let's say, we're looking at a regular customer or a premium or a luxury customer. So Alessandro, would you have some examples of, let's say, where people were able to integrate online and offline experiences, or any examples from luxury around that you mentioned?
Yeah, I can online to offline experiences, absolutely. I mean, for example, for the ultra luxury, I was actually playing around with a website last time. I'm not gonna make names, but a starting price of a pair of shoes, 700 euros. Through the personalization, I managed to pump it up to 16K for a one pair of shoes. So just to give you an idea. But I want to really back to the question, not only give an example. So what happens in the background is that obviously there needs to be a recognition, a way to recognize the persona of the customer. So as we said before, so clearly there are ways, whether it's online or offline, to actually recognize the persona. There is obviously an effort, and this is something where lots of firms, in particular in retail, they're investing right now, to actually manage to recognize the online and offline customers as one customer. So the person that buys offline, the person that buys online, trying to match these two people to actually understand what is the overall journey from online to offline. And that's something that right now there is lots of investment going into that. That is to recognize. After recognition, you need to tackle the likes, dislikes, attitudes, preferences, and so on and so forth, right? So how do you do that? You would do that at a custom, at a segment cluster level, right? So once you identify those persona, you can assume and safely assume that for each groups of personas, you will have specific drivers for this persona to buy something in specific, right? So let's pick up, for example, again, this pair of loafers. Let's pick up an upgrade in the leather material. So if I want to go for crocodiles, I have to add 10K, let's say, okay? Am I ready to do that? Am I the right segment to propose something like this? Or maybe there is another shoe that is more befitting to my case, where I don't have to have a heart attack and feel that, oh, I cannot afford that because I don't have 15K for a pair of shoes, but I do have €1,000. So how can you fit me in the right group? And how can you offer me the right value propositions, as a matter of fact?
Understood. Interesting. And I guess the next question. So Alessandro, it seems like the company can decide what level of personalization or extra service that needs to be delivered for each kind of curated experience.
For each case, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and different stages as well. So the next question, there's a set of questions that are all around the similar topic, which is around the concerns around data privacy. And there was also a question around GDPR or sort of the future of personalization, where can it go wrong or can it go too much in a direction that's undesirable. So any comments on that from the panel, data privacy concerns, and what happens in a world where data privacy is such a big concern?
May I raise my hand and perhaps volunteer? I've made some research in the past on this specific topic, so I feel quite versatile in this, and I hope that I can give the right context on this. And it's a complex question, as a matter of fact. So this is a bit like another way to frame this question, I would say, and is the absence of cookies and the usage of cookies, right? It's been actually a center of debates for quite a few years. And there's also within not only GDPR as something that has already happened, as a matter of fact, but also like globally, the way that the internet tracks you, and when I say the internet, let's say Google, for example, that is the vast majority of how we use the internet, right? Google from next year are going to decommission third-party cookies. In fact, it's a part of third-party cookies, I would say. So there is definitely a shift, I would probably call it a market shift, but let's not get alarmed too much on this. And let me also play a bit of words of caution on this, because I see lots of rumors in the market. So definitely there is going to be a change from a technology problem to a strategic problem. Let me explain that. Okay, right now, yes, you have cookies. If you're able to utilize those cookies in an effective way with a data management platform, for example, you'll be able then to track and trace each person behavior online, let's say also offline. Let's say banners, for example. Okay, to give an example, which is part of the third-party cookies ecosystem, right? But at the same time, in the future, those third-party cookies will not be there. So there are two things that do happen. Diversion of traffic is something that is important onto your own website, because your own website is first-party cookies, and you can keep track, you can personalize, you can do all sorts of things. So definitely there is a different strategy if you get my drift on this. And then the other thing I would say is also a shift on focus on what we say consent. We start seeing it also already in some websites that start asking you, would you consent to cookies, et cetera? There will be probably more of that. We still don't know how that's going to look like, but we know that in the future that is going to be more of that. And keeping control on that level of consent is what actually then enables companies then to track or not those
Right.
customers. Because otherwise, no consent, no tracking. You are definitely the only way to understand what the customer is doing is to entice the customer through marketing channels.
Right.
Onto your own website, onto your own on-premises store, onto your own facilities. But obviously, there is consensus that can be leveraged.
Right.
And there is obviously lots of marketing channels and technologies that can be leveraged as well.
Understood. So if I were to summarize this, Alessandro, and help me summarize this. So first of all, like you mentioned, data and privacy is definitely a really important concern, and regulations are still being formulated around that. So it's an evolving problem, not something that's already been solved. I think the second point is that from first party to third party cookies, there's a differentiation between tracking you on your own website, which is the first party cookie that you mentioned, and then tracking you on another website. So with the regulation that you spoke about that's coming next year, so you cannot be tracked outside of your website, and hence the effort would be to bring people back to your own website and get explicit content for analyzing their behavior there. And as a consumer, I feel it's a really interesting conundrum for a consumer as well, that I do want personalized and curated experiences, which also then means that I need to be able to share that data with the companies for them to actually create those experiences for me. And I think over time,
shift on focus. Absolutely. Shift on focus on the consumer and consumer preference.
Very interesting. We had one more question that's come, and that's around the fact that are the stages or the type of personalizations we spoke about today, are those sequential, or are these necessarily step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4? Or can they be implemented independently? Or how does the actual implementation of this look like in terms of scale or in terms of getting this off the board?
Yeah, if I may want to just give that example, because definitely there is not like, as simple as, you just hire an agency and start sending emails and messages, on the fly. But there is a process which you would have to go ahead with. So right from starting with the assessment of the entire maturity of what that organization would want to achieve with personalization, to defining who do you want to target with what do you want to target, and then coming up with a strategy and test it out. So I think that is the essential step, because if you are able to learn on the efficacy of the personalization strategies that you're implementing, it will be easier for you to do that course correction rather than going full blast, deploying the personalization program at scale and then reversing the strategy altogether. So it is definitely the way to go about deploying and implementing the personalization strategy at scale is through MVT. So it has to be a minimum viable transformation kind of a project, which will enable you to do the course correction if something is not going right or wrong. And I also was trying to read through some of the questions as well, and somebody did ask, I think Thomas did ask, about can the personalization go wrong? Yes, it can, but what will help, or what will help us from not going wrong, is that you do the test and learn and then rephrase your personalization strategy and then deploy it. I think that is the way we should be looking at personalization, and most of the large organizations that eClerx has been working with has been working in a similar fashion as well.
Excellent. We're on time. Thank you so much, Peter, Alessandro, and Rajasi, for your time today. Thank you so much for the participants. If you've put more questions, we'll try and get back to as many questions as possible after the webinar. And if there are any other questions, if there are any topics that you would like us to discuss more in upcoming webinars, do reach out, let us know, and we'll definitely cover related and other topics. And once again, just ending on behalf of the team here, thank you so much for your attendance. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.